Hey guys, what's up? Bang bang. This is the Build or Die Health and Fitness Conference. I'm going to sit down today with 4 leading people who run companies that are all about optimizing you as a high performer. Each one of these businesses has built a product or a service that is focused on trying to get humans to optimize everything that has to do with their health so they can perform better in their chosen profession. Every single person you're going to see today is someone that I would consider a friend, and I'm incredibly impressed by what they've built. I'm a user of their products, and also I think that many of the people that they are helping not only are becoming better performers in the boardroom, in their office, or in their everyday lives, but there's also tons and tons of people who are reporting, both online and social media, but also in private, all the different health benefits that are helping out with medical cases and many other situations that they face. Today, we are going to start with Matteo Franceschetti. He's the co-founder and CEO of 8 Sleep. 8 Sleep is a business that when I was trying to optimize my personal sleep, I found them, I tried the product, and then I literally ran to Matteo and I was like, this thing changed my life. I've got to invest in your business. After he gave me a hard time and tried to avoid me for a while, I eventually convinced him. And so not only am I proud to call Matteo a friend, but also I'm a proud investor in the business, 8 Sleep, and I sleep on the mattress every single night. Here, let's bring up Matteo and let's learn more about how to optimize our sleep. All right, Matteo, I thought a great place for us to start this conversation is the idea of sleep fitness. This is something that you all are pioneering. What exactly is sleep fitness and why is it so important to people?
Yeah, we came up with this concept of sleep fitness that is different from what most of the other companies in sleep do or think about, right? So for us, sleep is literally like fitness. You need to put the time, you need to put the effort, and then the result is your sleep performance, which really means how you feel when you wake up. And so sleep fitness means things like you need to be consistent with your time, the time you go to bed, the time you wake up, you need to put the hours. So you need to try to sleep anywhere between 7 and 9 hours. And then the results will come and you will feel great, energized and in a good mood every single day.
So when people actively work to sleep better, longer, deeper, all these different things, how many of them are sleeping because it's athletic performance, it is mental clarity and kind of like business type performance, or it's things like longevity? Do you see people trying to specialize or really focus on their sleep for one of those? Or is it really them saying, hey, I just want to be healthier. I actually want to get more longevity. I want to get better athletic performance and mental health. How much specialization versus just generally people realize it's good for their health and that's why they focus on it?
It's a great question. For most of the people, it's more probably a general feeling, right? Because it's really the feeling of when you wake up in the morning and how you feel in terms of energy and in terms of mood. Then I think there are a lot of people that now are more into biohacking and health and longevity. And so they know that there are second order effects that will impact also these verticals. But I would say for most of at least our customers, that is just normal people, is just how great you feel every morning.
Describe a little bit the 8 Sleep product itself. And one of the things that's been so interesting to me over the years is it's probably the technology product I spend the most time with. So if I look at, the amount of time I spend on my phone, it's, 4 hours a day or so. If I look at my computer, again, it's hours a day, but it's not 8 hours. And 8 hours being 1/3 of the day seems like, man, I really better get this right because it is the thing I spend the most time with. So what exactly does the product do and how does it work?
Yeah, is another great point. I think actually Elon Musk had tweeted about how much you use your car in a week. And I don't remember if it was like 2 hours a day at the most, so call it 14 hours. But then you start thinking, how long do you sleep and how much do you use our product every single day? And you're talking about almost 60 hours a week. So it's an order of magnitude, almost an order of magnitude bigger than how much you use your car. Our product is a cover. So it's something that you can install onto any mattress. So if you like your mattress, keep using it, then we don't expect you to change it. You put this cover on top of it, and then you put your bed sheets on top of our cover. And the cover does a couple of different things. First, there are sensors embedded in this cover that can track everything about your sleep, your respiration, and your heart rate. So cardiovascular system, and again, respiration in the future will be things like snoring and sleep apnea. And then based on your biometrics, we adjust the temperature of each side of the bed based on your sleep stages and HR and other factors. There is plenty of medical evidence that through temperature and specifically thermoregulation, you can improve your sleep quality. And that is what we see in our data. 9 out of 10 of our customers report better sleep. Plus, we see with hard data that we can improve your deep sleep by up to 30% and your sleep quality by up to 27%.
So when we talk about this idea of the cold temperature, that is me laying on the actual mattress. I just sleep like I normally do, and it's colder. But you guys have something called autopilot, which is not just leaving it as one static temperature throughout the night. Help people understand kind of what autopilot is doing and like why is it that actually maybe changing the temperature throughout the night could be more advantageous?
Yeah. So first, probably you have heard people saying, oh, you should sleep at 68 degrees all night. And that is wrong. And it's wrong because your body temperature changes during the night and you go through different sleep stages. And so 68 degrees could be right for maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, whatever, but definitely it's not going to be right for the whole night. And so the first thing we did when we started the company was to create the multiple different settings for different stages of the night. But then we started applying AI and ML to that. And so we said, instead of you manually setting this temperature before going to bed, not the temperature in light sleep, the temperature in deep sleep or in REM, we are going to manage this for you in real time while you are unconscious. And so while you are sleeping, we capture your sleep stages, we capture your biometrics, and our AI automatically sets the temperature that is better for you. Our AI also learns from you. So we look at, toss and turns, sleep quality, and sleep stages, and every single day will improve the temperature that we provide to you. It's a sort of autopilot from Tesla, but instead of driving your car, it drives your sleep.
So this is not just for average Joes, right? You have some of the top athletes, the top professionals in the world sleeping on this. Who are some of the people that you're allowed to publicly talk about that are actually sleeping on an Eat Sleep?
Yeah. So in business, we have Elon Musk, we have Mark Zuckerberg, Vinod Khosla, Paul Graham, got one. So many others, many billionaires in Silicon Valley, they all sleep on our product. A lot of CEOs of public companies, they sleep on our product. And then another big bucket is athletes. And so we have Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, they're Formula One drivers. We have around 60-70% of the Formula One drivers sleeping on the pod. We have tennis players, a couple of the top 10 tennis players, CrossFit champion, and a lot of cyclists. So we just worked, there was the Tour de France in France, and there was a team sleeping on the pod. We have the best player from the Miami Heat sleeping on the pod and traveling with it. So we have hundreds of athletes, and I think we have more than 40 Olympians sleeping on the product.
So what's so interesting to me is when I played football in college, hyperbaric chambers and all these different kind of fitness related products, it was seen as something that the professional used, right? A hyperbaric chamber is like, I don't know, $10,000, $15,000, super expensive. It's clunky. You like get in, you zip yourself into this whole thing, but it's got this amazing benefit to it. What you all have built is almost a product that is good for the professionals, but it's available to kind of the retail individual or the retail consumer as well. Is that something that you think you can continue where it's good enough for the professional athletes, but it's available to kind of the mass market?
Yeah, 100%. And I think there will be a portfolio diversification where we will keep building more products. Some, they will have a lower price, and some others, they will have a higher price. And so based on what you can afford, you can sleep in the greatest sleep device ever built to maximize your sleep performance.
And in that device, I think that you are already testing it. You're sleeping in it yourself. Talk a little bit in terms of kind of the company's mission. I think when I first started sleeping on it and you and I first started talking and I was begging you to allow me to invest in the business, you were like, well, actually the goal here is not just sleep in this cold environment. You wanted to compress the hours of sleep that someone had, but still kind of increase the quality. And so why is that goal so important to you? But also, how do you plan to do it?
Yeah. So one of the goals would be, can you get in just 6 hours the same amount of rest you were getting in 8 hours? Can we make sleep more efficient? And the whole point is, on my side, I'm obsessed with efficiency, as you know, because we're friends. And so I try to do everything possible in my life to maximize my time. And so originally, the first idea of 8 Sleep came from that. And I say, why do I need to sleep 8 hours? And the reality is, you don't need to sleep 8 hours. It's just it's something inefficient that didn't change for the past 2,000 years. 2,000 years ago, we were sleeping on a piece of stone. And now, for the past 50 years, we have been sleeping on a piece of dumb foam. But the reality is, we still go to bed and we pretend to wake up 8 hours later fully refreshed. And that is not possible. And so, first, can we compress sleep? And I think we can, because we can maximize your sleep performance through temperature of the bed, temperature of the air, light, noise, and other factors. And then I started thinking, fine, even if we can compress your sleep from 8 hours to 6, it's still a lot of time. What else can we do for you? And so what we want to do is to substantially scan your body every single night to detect potential illnesses that are developing in your body. So imagine if in 3, 4, 5 years from now, some of our products can scan your body almost like an MRI. It will not be MRI technology, it will be a different technology, but the result will be very similar, so we can detect the development of certain illnesses and potentially even cancer.
As you continue down that path, obviously that is a technology problem. That's something you got to build a company, you got to build technology, you got to figure out how to sell it. Like there's a clear path, right? But it's also one that is difficult to execute. What can people do today? Like very specific protocols when they go to sleep, other than just sleep on the 8 Sleep, that allows them to increase the probability of getting a great night of sleep? Are there routines? Are there products? Like what do you do? And what do you suggest other people take a look at that may work for them?
Yeah. So the first thing that the sleep doctor would tell you is just to be consistent. And so you need to go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. And the reason is, you have a biological clock. So you need to teach your body when it's time to go to bed and when it's time to wake up. And after a while, probably 2, 3, 4 weeks, the body will just start doing it automatically. That is one. Second, you need to put the time, right? So you need to try to sleep anywhere between 7 and 9 hours. I actually sometimes tell people, look, just do this test. For a week, try to sleep 1 hour longer every single day. At the end of the week, you will have slept 7 hours more than what you usually do, which is the equivalent of one night. And then you tell me how you feel. This is the second one. Another thing you can do is you could do a thermal shock before going to bed. A simple way to do it is you take a shower and you keep switching between cold water and warm water, 30 seconds each, do it 6 times. That thermal shock usually really helps you to relax. Then if you are in an hotel or if you can afford it, the equivalent, but 10x stronger, is to do a sauna and a ice bath. If you can do that, it will help you. Particularly, even just a sauna could be really helpful an hour or 2 hours before going to bed. The last thing is you can switch all your lights to orange in the evening. So let's say after 8 p.m. And so that orange will help you stimulate your melatonin and make your body feel that it's almost time to go to bed.
And when you're doing things like the light, how do you suggest people do this when they're traveling? Are there certain hacks that maybe it works at home, right? And you've got your routine, but then all of a sudden you start traveling and people are like, I never get a good night of sleep on the road. Or, I have some sort of time zone issue. What do you do travel-wise that's like a sleep protocol that works for you?
Yeah. For the lights, the only thing you could do is there are some glasses that you could wear, and they will let you see everything in an orange color. That is an option. The other thing is, when I travel, so I just came back from Europe, I try to start adjusting to the new time zone 2-3 days in advance. So what doctors say is usually your body is able to formally adjust only 1 hour per day to a new time zone. So in theory, if you go to a time zone where there is a 6 hours delta, it will take your body 6 days to fully adjust to that time zone, 1 hour per day. But if you start 3 days in advance, then instead of being 6 days, it's just 3 days, right? So that is another thing you can do. The other thing is when you land in a new place, the best is to land in the morning and immediately expose yourself to sunlight. So the sun will help you to reset your circadian clock, your biological clock. And the other thing is, if it's morning or early afternoon when you land somewhere else, just go to the gym. So try to reactivate your body and do some physical activity. So the body understands that it's not night, but is morning.
When somebody asks you, cool, you're the CEO and founder of 8 Sleep, I get what the product does. What is it going to do for me? You mentioned that there's a bunch of studies that you all have done. What are some of the things you all have learned from those studies that people who use the pod end up actually getting as a benefit of sleeping on an 8 Sleep?
Yeah. So first, you will get better sleep quality overall. It could go up to 30% based on what we see. Again, 9 out of 10 of our customers, and we're talking about thousands and thousands of customers, they report better sleep. So sleep quality, you will sleep better, you will wake up more refreshed. That's one. 2, you will get more deep sleep. We have evidence of that as well. 3, if you're fighting with your partner about temperature every single night because your partner likes it warmer or colder, that problem is going to be solved. If you have hot flashes, like many women, right? Menopause is an example. We can fix that problem as well. And if you sweat at night or you just feel too hot, we're going to fix that problem as well.
Where can we send people to find you on the internet or find out more about 8 Sleep?
Go on 8sleep.com, 8 like the number, EIGHT sleep.com. And there you can find our product and get one. You have, I think, 90 days or up to 100 days to return it if you don't like it. So there is no risk.
Matteo, I learned something every single time we talk. I always appreciate it. We'll definitely do it again in the future.
Thank you.
Man, I always love talking to Matteo, and I learn something every single time. Next up is Ryan Duey. Ryan is the co-founder and co-CEO of the Cold Plunge. In this business, they simply made a tub with freezing water. You dip your body into it and it has all kinds of great mental and physical benefits. Let's bring Ryan up on stage and learn more about cold plunging. All right, Ryan, I thought a great place for us to start this conversation is what exactly happens when your body goes into really cold water? What is the actual physiological effect of dipping your body into that cold water?
Yeah, it's basically like an onset of adrenaline. You know, we all know the term fight or flight. That's really what's happening when you get into cold water. You get in, it's an immediate shock. You lose your breath. You're kind of grasping for air. Breath gets short. And that's the actual response we're looking for. We're looking for heightened heart rate, blood pressure going up, and learning how to regulate and kind of calm our system down once we get in there. So it's really it's a shock to the system, and that's the ultimate goal when you're first getting in.
So let's talk about kind of the protocol of actually dipping your body into cold water. Are there certain things or best practices that people should do before they get into the cold plunge? Are there things that they should do in the cold plunge? And then are there things that they should do after the cold plunge that get the best effect or kind of have the most impact?
We like to keep it really simple. So, you know what, here, I'm speaking more for people starting out into the journey, haven't really cold plunged consistently, getting into it. We recommend starting in like a 50 to 55 degree temperature. You're getting in, you kind of want to gather yourself before, just get your breath going, a few kind of good inhales, exhales, you step in. And then from there, you're really shooting for about 2 minutes on the onset. That's kind of the start of everyone cold plunging. I'd say 55 degrees, 2 minutes. And, you're really looking to calm your breath down. So you're going to get in, you're going to get your heart rate super high. How do you start regulating your breath when you get into it? And I start people there and don't overcomplicate it. And you'll naturally add more time. You'll naturally go colder. Like those things will come. Start it out simple, 55 degrees, shoot for 2 minutes, learning just to regulate your breath. And it's actually not fighting the process when you're in there. It's just something we see a lot when people start out. They want to tough through it. They want to, I'm going to fight this. You really want to surrender and actually relax into the experience. And that's what we're shooting for. And you're naturally going to go down in temperature and go up in time.
When people are inside of that tub, you're talking about regulating kind of your breath. What are they doing with their hands, their feet? Are you supposed to be moving? Are you supposed to be staying still? Should your hands and feet be in the water, or should you actually try to have them outside of the water? What's kind of best practice?
No wrong answer here. Or it's really how everyone is. So my feet can go in. The feet and the hands are the most sensitive spot. So that's usually the most difficult for people. For me, I keep my hands out. I keep my hands right at the edge of the tub. they're out, I kind of cycle them in for 10 seconds at a time, push it, and then it kind of becomes too intense for me, and I usually bring my hands out. My feet, I'm able to keep them in the whole time, but everyone's a little different, and everyone's going to figure that out very quickly of where they're at. So there's no wrong answer there. I would say when you're getting in and you're going for like a cold exposure experience, you do want to get the water up to your neckline. So when you get in, making sure you'll see some people with the water only coming up to maybe their lower chest or something like that. You want to get in, and there's a couple reasons to that. One of the main reasons is we have this fat in our body called brown fat, different than the white fat that we carry. That's more the commonly referred to. Brown fat's carried up in our chest, back of our neck area, and that's an area that's what we want to be activating in the cold water. So it's important to be submerging it up to here, going in, and then your hands and your feet. That's something you can play with while you're in there.
Now, what is the best time? So from my personal experience, there's nothing better than you go and you work out, you're sweating, your body's overheating, and you jump into cold water. I've read, though, that maybe that's not the best thing to do if you're really focused on fitness and kind of working out. And then also, I've seen times where I've gone and done heat and cold in the morning or at night and had different impacts on my body and kind of whether I get tired or I have energy. How do you all think about, for the average person, what's the best time to do this according to whatever goals they have?
You nailed it. It depends on your goals. It depends on, there are different ways to do this, different levers to pull. For what I consider the most common intention or benefit that people are getting out of cold plunging, which is the mental side. It's the energy, it's that dopamine, it's the focus, it's the clarity, it's the heightened mood. Doing that first thing in the morning. That is my process. First thing when I wake up and get out of bed, I go do some breathing, and then I get into the cold plunge, and that's kind of sets my whole day up. If the workout, that's kind of that's the region. There's a lot of discussion around, like, is it best to be doing it right after your workout or giving as much time as possible? I think if you are truly a professional athlete or someone going for a bodybuilding or top end CrossFit athlete, there is science to show, put that on, try and space that out. Maybe do your plunge before or do it in the morning the next day or that evening, and try and give yourself at least 4 hours from the workout. And that's, there's a couple of reasons to that, but it's ultimately, it won't shorten your gains. But I say this to the most of us out there, we're not that person. We want to work out because we want to feel good. And what I've seen most is people, it's more of an excuse to not get in and it's blocking people from actually getting cold, which has a plethora of benefits outside of just post-workout recovery. So I always say you get it in where you can get it in. If you are a top level athlete and you are going for a maximized gains, then, space it out after the workout. And I say this too, we're partners with a lot of top end CrossFit athletes. Some of them are spacing it out, but some are also in the game. They look at themselves in the game of recovery. Like, I'm working out twice a day. I just need to be able to get back tomorrow and work out. So some of them are cold plunging right after because they're actually just needing to show back up tomorrow. And they look at it as like a long game, as opposed to maybe I didn't maximize my gains today, but I'm feeling better and I can work out harder tomorrow. And they play that long game. So it really varies. I always say, keep it simple. I like it first thing in the morning. You mentioned contrast therapy, hot and cold. That's definitely a more energy expenditure. So I try and put that on the later part of my day. That's it. That's, to me, an evening process. I come in, I get a good meal afterwards, sleep really well the night before. First thing in the morning, you want to look at it as almost like a workout that you did, an intense workout. Like, your body will come out and there is a depletion to it. So that timing is important of when you bring that in. So I recommend that more into the evening time.
Now, can you cold plunge too much? I haven't heard many people talk about that. If you do it 7 days a week, is that bad? If you do it twice a day, every day, 7 days a week, is that bad? Like, how do you all think about kind of diminishing returns maybe from something that obviously has these positive effects? Can you cold plunge too much?
Yes, you can. Similar to you can work out too much. There's everything is a medicine and can turn into a poison. So I cold plunge every single day. It's about 2 to 3 minutes in the morning. Sometimes I'll do an evening when I'm incorporating sauna. You really need to listen to your body. Everyone's different. If you're going for a 10-minute cold plunge at 39 degrees every day, I don't know if that's the best situation for you. You need to listen to your body. I do know some people that do that, and it tends to work for them. So, my recommendation is, trying to get in 10 to 15 minutes a week in the cold and space that out over the days. Rule of thumb is go shorter, more days than just going long for one day at a time. Build consistency and kind of build a practice.
Now, talk to me about the actual product that you all have built. How does it exactly work? Is the water staying inside of kind of the tub at all times and it's just being cleaned and chilled? Is the water running in and out? What exactly is this product?
Yeah, it's a self-contained unit. It's always clean. Water's always moving, always cold at your set temperature. So the real value proposition is that there's no work that goes into it. It's always there for you. It's already hard enough to get into cold water. I mean, look, I have one and I make excuses still to keep myself out. It's really just taking all the work out. It's right there for you. And it's really a product for those that want to incorporate this in consistently. If it's something you just want to be doing once a month, get a trough, fill it up with ice, get in. But if you want to have a practice, this is, you need the product that stays cold and clean, ready for you at all times.
Now, when people go and they do this, I've seen a lot of athletes, people who are into fitness, etc. Are there benefits for people who have zero kind of health aspirations or fitness aspirations? If you're just somebody who's like, you know what, I saw somebody on the internet do this and I think that maybe I should try that. Do you get the same benefits, or is this really something focused on kind of health and fitness? And if you're into that stuff, you'll be into it. But if you're not, maybe this isn't for you?
Absolutely. I would actually say the fitness side of it, it's kind of what everyone thinks of this as. We all college athletes got in the ice bath after, that's what the focus is on. Really, this is a mental health tool. That is really what we're going to see over the next, we see it from all of our customers. Number one, that is what everyone sees. A lot of people get it for, I want to work out harder. I want to recover better. Well, it always turns into everyone reaching back out no, my mood is better. I'm a happier person. Well, what's going on there is it's a dopamine. This is, you're seeing an increase on average of 250% every time you get into a cold plunge. Dopamine, what is that? That's the precursor to focus, clarity, our mood. So to your question, I think the recovery side of it is that's fifth down on the benefits. The number one benefit is what this is doing mentally for individuals. And that's just a human condition. That's all of us. So, yeah.
I'm going to call it a mental high, just for lack of having a better term. But that mental high, how long does it last for? And if, let's say I have a big meeting in the morning, or maybe it's in the afternoon, should I try to time up when I go into the cold plunge to overlap in that kind of window with that meeting? Or no, really, if you just get in the morning, you should be good for the rest of the day?
Yeah, we do see a lingering effect throughout the day, whether that it is 4 to 10 hours that it can kind of maintain throughout the day. It's not like coffee where you get in and then you have this high and then you have this crash. There's no crash that's associated to the plunge, but it is a daily thing. It's you are building a kind of a baseline. Your baseline will go up. Your baseline dopamine levels, that does increase over time. And studies have shown that. But my recommendation is, yeah, it's kind of like your daily medicine. You're taking it in, you're growing it. And then, for me, I have a podcast interview. I'm cold plunging an hour before. I have, whatever the thing is that I want to kind of elevate my afternoon crash with instead of a nap, I'll go get in the plunge for just even a minute, get in, kind of come back, and it kind of elevates me. So there's ways to play with it and actually let it be a leverage tool throughout your day.
Now, here's the hard question. What about the head? I've seen people get into the cold plunge. They go right up to the neck like you described, but that head's not going underwater. I've seen other people, they get in. The first thing they do is they dunk that head and they come up. Their hair looks all crazy, but they got the head under the water. What is kind of the best practice? And are there pros and cons to actually putting your head in versus not?
So dunking the head, it's the most paradoxical thing. It's actually an easier cold plunge. And I get it. People probably with long hair are going to be like, shit, I don't want to get my hair all wet. But if you can dunk your head, and there's a what it is, lean back, pinch your nose, slide under, get your head under right when you get it in and you come out, you regulate so much quicker in there. It's the shock gets that much more intense. And then you come out and the air's warmer and you can regulate in So it's actually a hack. It looks like the veteran move of, oh, that's such an intense thing. It's actually easier. So when you're starting out, if you can get in, dunk your head under, you will regulate your breath quicker.
Now, my last question for you is around the marketing of this. We've seen this kind of sweep through both the United States, but also globally, and kind of take over the internet as this thing that people do. And of course, that invites critics who are then like, oh, what do you cold plunge? Talk a little bit as to like the narrative and the marketing that you all have used in order to be able to popularize this and ultimately kind of drive adoption of the product.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately we know it works. So it's like it's a pretty simple narrative for us to get out. We get it every single day. It's more, we're just parroting what we hear from our customers. We know what it's done to us. Now we're getting it out at scale. We hear every single day the stories and testimonies of people coming back to us. So our big thing is like, this just makes you a better person. Like whether it's a dad that you want more energy with your kid, whether it's you want to be a better wife, like whatever the thing is, like it just makes you you feel better, you're a better person. So that's the narrative we want to get out. Yeah, we are diving more into like the science. What's this actually doing on a physiological level to the body? People are different. Women are different. Men are different. Ages, body sizes. Like we're trying to understand that. But from a marketing perspective, I think like we have a slogan here. It's called "Take the Plunge, Change Your Life." It sounds it's an epic marketing statement. It has happened the most organic way. It was literally like every customer was like, this changed my life. And we were just like, it just kind of came out. And so that's, the message that we want to get out there is more of like, who are you aspiring to be? This is just an ally in that process. Like this is just a way, and it's an ROI on your time. That's the next value prop here. There's nothing that I've found. And look, I love all the tools out there. I love working out. I love diet. I love, psychedelic, like all the tools that you can incorporate in for self-development. There's a lot that I left off there. Cold plunging is that one thing, 2 to 3 minutes of what you felt going in to what you felt going after. And I'm not asking you to go expend a ton of energy and run 10 miles, 2 to 3 minutes. And all you have to do is breathe. And I guarantee you will feel completely different than when you entered in and in a way that you want to feel. So that's the story of like, if you just get in the cold water, you feel this way coming out. It works every single time without miss. So, that's the exciting part. This isn't like works for some, doesn't work for others. Like from a mental side, every single human has the same response.
I love it. Ryan, where can we send people to find you on the internet or find out more about Cold Plunge?
Yeah, plunge.com is where we're at. And then me, type in Ryan Duey mostly through the socials. But yeah, plunge.com, you can check us out.
Awesome. Plunge.com. Ryan, I appreciate it very much. We'll definitely do it again in the future.
Cool. Thanks, Anthony.
Man, Ryan is a wealth of information, and I always learn when I talk to him. Next up is Geoff Woo. Jeff is the co-founder and chairman of HVMN. They make a brand new product called Ketone IQ. I drink it every single morning, and it gives me mental clarity, but also somehow it just makes me perform better at work. I drink it every morning alongside my coffee, and I'm super excited to learn from Jeff all about how I should be drinking it, when I should drink it, and what the actual health benefits could be. Let's bring Jeff up on stage. All right, Jeff, I thought a great place for us to start this conversation is just what the heck is ketones? No one's really heard of them if you're not into kind of health and fitness, but they're obviously a essential part once you start to go down this rabbit hole. So what is a ketone and why is it so important to the human body?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Pomp. Ketones, I like to think of as a fourth macronutrient. So what are macronutrients? These are things that contain calories that we eat. So fats, protein, carbohydrate, those are the three classic macronutrients. And they basically go into your cells. There's a Krebs cycle you remember from high school biology. You take the basic substrates of fat, protein, carbohydrate, you generate ATP. And they have different profiles of how they impact your metabolism, your insulin response, and how they're used as sort of building blocks for your body, your brain and muscles. So ketones are this fourth way that your body can also use for energy. And it evolved as a way, as essentially a starvation fuel. So protein, mainly used to build muscle, right? If you're burning protein for fuel, that means you're really, really starving, right? Like that's like concentration camp, you're just wasting away, sarcopenia. Fat and carbohydrate are the main calorie sources. Eating a bunch of sugar, that's a really efficient use of energy, but having too much sugar drives insulin resistance, diabetes, all these things that we hear in the news today. And then that's where a lot of people have been saying, hey, we actually should be eating more healthy fats. But the downside with eating a lot of healthy fats is that it's still a very slow process to convert fat into usable forms of fuel. And that's actually what the ketogenic diet is about. Keto diet or fasting is essentially forcing your body to burn through sugar, go into fat metabolism. And when your body is in that state, it converts fat into the form of ketones. So ketones are not really well understood because it's not something you can directly consume typically. It's something that you have to either earn through fasting or eating a very specific high fat, low carb diet, a ketogenic diet. But with recent technology in military research programs, you can actually create directly consumable ketones. So you can get into the benefits of ketosis or ketones without having to fast or eat a ketogenic diet.
Now, when you look at that research, are they setting out to specifically create something to consume that can, essentially mimic the ketogenic diet? Or are they doing other research and this is kind of like a byproduct that they come across and like, oh, we could use it for this?
Yeah, that's a good question. The original research actually came from starvation metabolism done out of the theology school and the medical school at Harvard, actually, where they were fasting divinity students for 40 plus days and just understanding what the metabolism looks like in the body. And one of the most energetic or efficient fuels, and they measure this by tracking how much ATP, which is the energy currency of cells, to substrate. So basically, ketones produce the most ATP per carbon and per oxygen versus fat, carbohydrate, and protein. So it's actually a really efficient fuel. And then in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of research around astronauts looking at using ketones as a precursor, as a fuel for astronauts. So a lot of the research was looking to maximize metabolic efficiency, one, and then two, looking at applications where this type of extreme requirements are beneficial. So a lot of the modern day, this is where, my company, HVMN, came into play. We actually scaled up a multi-million-dollar Special Operations Command military contract to study the applications of ketones at high altitude, hypoxic environments. So think 16,000 feet range, which is essentially Afghanistan mountain fighting ranges.
Now, when you go and you look at those people, folks that are using the HVMN product today, this kind of ketone drink, talk a little bit about what that product is, and then also who are the people who are using this? There's elite athletes, there's war fighters, there's a ton of different people, but like what is the product and then who is using it today to get this kind of ketone injection, if you will, into their body?
Right. So instead of having to do fasting or a ketogenic diet, what if you could consume a ketone drink that directly delivers ketones into your body? And that's what our product Ketone IQ does. So essentially how we make it is that we actually have synthetically basically genetically engineered E. coli ferment sugar into ketone diol, which converts directly into ketones in your system. So this wouldn't be possible before synthetic biology. So essentially like a pure form of ketones created from synthetic biology. It comes in a bottle form. It tastes kind of crazy, but it's in terms of just grams per ketones that can be delivered quickly. One drink, it makes it look like your body's have been fasting for 3 to 5 days. So it looks like you essentially you create ketosis mimetic through this product.
Now, who's using it?
Eventually, I'd like to see everyone in the world use a fourth macronutrient, but the early adopters have been military operators. So, out of our research program with Special Operations Command, a number of the tier one units in the U.S. military are customers. We actually hired a 20-year Green Beret warrant officer who ran the Special Operations Mountain School, which is like the subject matter expert for high altitude mountain warfare fighting for all of SOCOM, all of JSOC, which are like the super squirrel units within Department of Defense. He actually runs government sales for us today. And we actually got to know him because his cadre, his schoolhouse, was one of our main testing grounds for developing ketone IQ. So a lot of affinity, a lot of love for our service members and our veterans. And then the adjacent communities around special operators are elite athletes. So we have combat sports athletes like a Jake Paul to a Conor McGregor as customers, all the way to elite endurance athletes. So the Tour de France is happening this month in July, and over half the peloton are customers. Lance Armstrong actually is a big partner of ours. And, it's been interesting to see him, back in his era. There's like just rumors around ketones and fueling in his era, but the technology has gotten to a point where it's much cheaper and much more available, where this is something you can buy in a grocery store now.
Now, you have, I think, two different packagings of the product. There's one that's kind of like a taller bottle, and then there's almost like a shot. I think of it as kind of, there's like the 5-hour energy, and then there seems to be like this healthier version of it. Talk a little bit about like dosage and how much people are drinking, and is the shot something that they just consume in one, go, or is it something that they're actually waiting? There you go. You got both of them right there. Like what's kind of dosage that people are taking here?
If you want the super technical answer, you really want to be measuring ketones in a grams per body weight kilogram ratio. So in all the randomized controlled trials on humans, it's about 0.5 grams per body weight kilogram. So if you're a 70 kilogram human, 154 pounds, that nets out to be about 35 grams. So one of these shots is 10 grams, and this big bottle has 100 grams of ketones. So for everyday use, 10, 20 grams is super sufficient. It'll get you into ketosis. It'll look like you've been fasting for 3 days. But if you really want kind of the gold standard, you're doing a marathon, you want to be pushing 30, 40 grams of ketones.
Now, what is like the protocol for taking this? Do I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I reach over on my bed and take Ketone IQ? Do I wait and I drink some coffee and do it? Do I need to eat before or after? Like, what's kind of the best practice, if you will, for a protocol for actually taking Ketone IQ?
Yeah, if like the dream to me is you wake up first thing, you immediately ice plunge, and then you freeze your butt off. You don't right in the beginning of in the day. And then you have a hot cup of coffee and a Ketone IQ shot. And you'll just be like buzzing for the next 4 hours. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have all of that stuff, I think Ketone IQ, you use it essentially anytime you use a cup of coffee. But the great thing about ketones is that it's not a stimulant. It won't keep you up at night. We're actually running data with different military research groups around ketosis and sleep. So there's been a lot of anecdotal evidence, and I think we have a bunch of friends who work in sleep tech, where heart rate variability, which is a measure of recovery, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are using all these devices anyways, just tracking HRV when you're on ketosis or not, and it looks like we can actually enhance. And this is actually one of the underutilized versions of ketones. Like some of the best, like a lot of people will use ketones as like a pre-workout. But the best Tour de France teams actually use ketones as a recovery, like before sleep. So I think the recovery applications are going to be much more interesting than the pre-workout applications. Although pre-workout is like kind of a sexy, kind of cool thing because you kind of feel like a kind of a ketone buzz. But I think personally, the applications that excite me the most are recovery and then post-traumatic brain injury. Ketones are a really efficient fuel for the brain. So that's why a lot of, I would say, startup execs, investors are big customers, because you feel this sense of mental clarity and this like mental boost because ketones cross the blood-brain barrier and they're really efficient fuel for the brain.
Are there risks or like downsides to taking ketone IQ or just adding ketones in general? Like, could you take too much of it? Are there certain things that maybe certain populations shouldn't take it? Like, how do you guys think about, kind of population segmentation or also potential risks?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I remember when I was getting into keto back in 2014, 2015, when you first Google it, the first term that pops up is ketoacidosis, which is when your body has so much ketones that your body is acidic. So there is a thing as too much of a good thing. It's like if you drank 15 Red Bulls or like 10 Gatorades, like there's just too much metabolic substrate going into your system. You'll basically start throwing up. So don't drink too much. Like too much can be negative. And the second thing I would caution is that although ketosis is associated with appetite and weight control, you can't just drink ketones to like melt fat off your body. So it's not like you keep your normal diet and then put ketones on top and you become skinnier. There's just like the fundamental like laws of thermodynamics. Like ketones contain energy. If you put more energy into your body, you gotta utilize it. Otherwise, you store it. Which means you get fat.
How does ketone and food go hand in hand? Like, is there a certain protocol? Are there certain foods you should be eating or not eating? I'm assuming if you kind of take ketone IQ and then all of a sudden you go and you eat huge bowls of ice cream and like kind of all this bad food, like maybe that negates some of the impact. Like, what are some of the best practices or things to avoid?
Yeah, you want to you want to take ketone IQ before food. Like the ketone elevation will be blunted if you have like a large bolus or just a bunch of food in your stomach. So the absorption gets minimized. But in terms of do you need to be on a ketogenic diet or not? A lot of the actual research on performance athletes is on people that eat a normal standard diet. So again, like no one's actually really studied, hey, eat 2,000 calories of ice cream and then put ketones on top. I suspect that it's like probably incrementally better than having 2,000 calories of ice cream and a bunch of sugar on top, incremental sugar on top of that. But I think that the moral of the story here is that it works on a mixed diet as well as it works on a ketogenic diet, but usually take it before food so you can fully absorb ketones rather than like the ketones get stuck in the food and you poop it out.
When you see these athletes and military operators using this, is there anything else that they're doing from ingestion that they may be taking, whether it's vitamins or minerals or anything else that kind of either supplements or can kind of help with some of the potential downsides to putting ketones in their body? Like, I just think of this as one thing, and we're now starting to see you guys are doing a great job of marketing this on Instagram and other places. There's a lot of like fitness folks who are talking about it, but what you don't see is kind of like, what are they doing before and after? You mentioned coffee earlier. What else?
Yeah, I think from a cognitive perspective, I mean, this is something that I've been experimenting with, which is just cycling between caffeine, nicotine, which I consume in the form of like nicotine gum, and ketones. I think one of the downsides or challenges with just supplementation is that your body adapts to all these substances, especially the stimulants like nicotine and caffeine. So, and I think overall in our society, I think we're overly caffeinated. So I like to basically cycle caffeine and nicotine, and that my overall caffeine nicotine usage comes down on ketones as well. So I have like the benefits of a stimulant without using a stimulant. But I would say in terms of just adjuncts to ketosis, I mean, I think in terms of like optimizing recovery, you want to have protein and carbohydrate with ketones for the recovery aspect. So, basically like the main protein amino acid that triggers muscle synthesis is leucine. So like it's like a very common amino acid. You'll get it in like a standard whey protein. But just if we're looking to dial in the specific amino acid chains, it's leucine. So it's one of those things where it's like, I think people can get too dogmatic, like, hey, you're drinking ketones, only eat a ketogenic diet. but actually, like the beauty of ketones is that instead of having 3 colors to paint like the beautiful picture of your metabolism, you have a 4th bucket of paint, which is ketones. So you want to be using ketones in addition to carbohydrate and protein to have the maximum recovery for a muscle perspective. And going back to the brain, I think DHA, like omega-3 fatty acids, with ketones, like those are like very common protocol for post-concussion. So thinking about, again, this is more like service member related. You want to be adding fatty acids, essential fatty acids for the brain with ketones as like an adjunct for that use case.
If we zoom out, talk to me about HVMN and kind of your long-term vision for the ketone product. Is it something that will always be liquid? Could it eventually come in more of a solid kind of food state? Are there other things that you all are looking at? What's kind of the goal over the next, call it 24, 36 months?
Yeah, no, I think we launched in retail in April. So it's been 2-3 months in retail, and we're like the number 7 like SKU out of 84 in like the wellness shot category of all of Sprouts. So it's really cool to see this like out in the wild. I think we're selling over 10,000 shots a day now. So just the business has really grown a lot when we launched this product, this specific SKU back in January of 2022. Fast forward like 16, 18 months, the business has essentially tripled in over the last year. So I think for us now, it's how do we really accomplish the full dream of this being a 4th macronutrient? So that to me means that it needs to be as cheap as sugar, as cheap as butter, as ubiquitous as like these very fundamental foodstuffs. So it's essentially like, can we make this as cheap as possible? And really the answer is just getting the feedstock in the fermentation process like really, really large. So like the theoretical limit is 1 step more complex than sugar. So like we get to like super infinite like limit scale. It's basically the starting cost of this is a little bit of sugar and fermentation of sugar. So that would be like the ultimate long-term vision. Hey, like we can provide 10 to 15% of daily caloric requirement from ketones. In all variety forms of form factors. Liquid just is the most efficient, densest form, right? If you pack into a solid, you need to have non-ketone starches and basically mediums to hold ketones.
That makes a ton of sense. Jeff, where can we send people to find you on the internet or find out more about Ketone IQ?
Find info about Ketone IQ at hvmn.com. And I'm also active on social media across any of the channels. Just my name at Geoffrey Woo.
Awesome. Jeff, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed learning about this. I'm an active consumer and think that people should definitely check out and see kind of if it's right for them and what the potential benefits could be. So I appreciate taking the time to do this, and we'll do it again in the future.
Yeah, appreciate you, man.
Jeff's got such a great story. I literally think that he's one of the coolest people that I know. Now, next up, we're going to talk to Bill Shufelt. Bill is the co-founder and CEO of Athletic Brewing Company. These guys, they simply are taking on the world of beer by producing a non-alcoholic beer that lets you have all the great tastes of beer, the same rituals, the same social situations, but it doesn't hurt your health. I've been drinking Athletic Brewing for years now, and I've always found Bill not only to be thoughtful, but quite ambitious. He's built an amazing business, an amazing product, and's got a very enviable cap table for most founders. Let's bring Bill up on stage and learn more about non-alcoholic beer. All right, Bill, I thought a great place for us to start our conversation. Non-alcoholic beer to me is one of these products that everyone thinks of, I don't want to drink. They think of subtractive, but you all have built this amazing product that actually people are running towards. It's this like additive thing. Like I want to drink an Athletic Brewing. Talk a little bit about the athletes and people who are health conscious and their relationship with alcohol, and like, where does Athletic Brewing fit in today?
Absolutely. Pomp, super excited to be here. It's always great to talk and catch up. So thank you for having me. I think non-alcoholic beer, I think in terms of positive sum games, aspirational things that are moving human society forward in exciting performance in progressive ways. And we are right at the intersection of all that. A lot of people use words like disruption and things like that pretty lightly. Athletic brewing is changing up a 5,000-year human habit and kind of turning it on its head for the first time. So to your question, like non-alcoholic beer was always this thing that was negative, stigmatized. It was like the niche of the niche occasions, and they were always negative occasions. And the products were unexciting. The marketing was even worse. Athletic brewing came into that space and wanted to make beer for high-performing, healthy, modern adults and the modern lifestyle. And we did that by making it aspirational, super exciting, and really taking it forward. Over, call it 100 years, 200 years, humans have been going from 7 days of drinking a week to having their drinking occasions being boxed into like Friday happy hour. And Athletic wants to take that back out to 7 days a week of awesome experiences and just without the side effects that slow you down.
So for years, I've been drinking this product. My personal kind of interest in it was I like beer, but I didn't want the alcohol. And some of it was health, but a lot of it was actually sleep related. Like I knew that when I drank, I didn't get as great sleep at night. And the thing that surprised me when I first tried it was just like how much it actually tastes like real beer, right? And I put real kind of in like air quotes. Talk a little bit about the process and how similar is making non-alcoholic beer to the actual beer making process that somebody would go if they went to the grocery store and bought kind of alcoholic beer.
So that was a big part of it. That was like one of our first principles thinkings of approaching non-alcoholic beer. People had always thought about non-alcoholic beer as, oh, I need this to like satisfy a CSR or social responsibility obligation. And I'm going to go to the traditional machines, nuke a alcohol beer and have a lesser than product come out the other end and we'll sell it. Athletic brewing, I read every brewing textbook I could get my hands on. And I said, there has to be a better way. And I hadn't used my science in over 10 years and I had never brewed a batch of beer in my life, but I think sometimes it just takes someone coming in from the outside, doing fresh research, thinking about it in a new way. And within like a year or two, I had never brewed anything, but I had such conviction that I had a new way of brewing non-alcoholic beer that was fully fermented beer with all the great nuances of great beer, just without the alcohol. And so that's what I took to John Walker, our co-founder and brewmaster. And this was after hundreds of no's in the industry of people who had zero interest. And John was like, this might work. And that's when it was really exciting for me.
Talk a little bit about kind of the maybe consumer trends that you're seeing. You've told me a couple of stats that are absolutely mind-blowing, including people are not just drinking this if they don't drink. Sometimes you're seeing people actually drink an alcoholic beer and then a non-alcoholic beer, then an alcoholic beer, and then a like talk a little bit about that trend as to like how people are actually using this product in their day-to-day lives while not really disrupting maybe the social experiences that they're used to.
Yeah. And it is just like people chasing performance in their life. In the modern world, they want all the social experience, all the food pairings and great things about like that, but they don't want to give up on the performance. Taking my and your experience, I think we arrived at non-alcoholic beer in similar ways where we're just high-performing modern adults who want to have the intellectual motor going all hours of the day, want to get a great sleep, and want to do it all again the next day. When I kind of tripped into this lifestyle and stopping drinking, I worked at one of the world's biggest hedge funds. It was super high velocity and intellectually challenging. And I was training for ultra marathons on the weekends. And, there was and I liked going out to work dinners and things with friends and family 7 days a week. In that, something had to give. And when I gave on the alcohol and stopped drinking for a month, it was the easiest and clearest life hack I've ever uncovered. So take that to modern trends. I think there are just millions of people realizing what me and you realized is, hey, I'm going to go to a work happy hour and I'm going to be super psyched with this athletic beer in my hand. I'm going to have the full experience. I'm just going to be totally fine when I get home. I can still do work email when I get home at night. I can read something. I can hang out with my family, and I can wake up feeling great the next day and hit my workout still. So in terms of stats, one of the biggest and most surprising things is how much interchanging we're seeing within sessions. Gen Z in urban areas particularly are going out and they might have one alcoholic drink and then mix in non-alcoholic beers the rest of the night. Or, people golfing on the weekends. I hear this all the time. They refer to it as the athletic diet. and they drink a alcoholic beer on the front nine and they start drinking Athletic on the back nine. But it's, yeah. And I mean, if you want other stats, non-alcoholic beer has been steadily in the background. This was an $80 to $100 million category for 30 years, and it was super stagnant, very small in terms of the $100 billion beer market. And it's been growing very quickly in the background the past 5 years since Athletic launched. It is now probably about $1 billion category in the US, but it's growing faster than it did even off the smaller base now. And in some channels like natural chain grocery, non-alcoholic beer, where it used to be 0.3% of all beer, is now over 10% of all beer. And in some national grocery chains, we're seeing non-alcoholic beer over 13% of all beer. So if you think everyone in the beverage alcohol world will look like natural grocery in 5 or 10 years, very likely looking at a $10 to $15 billion category in the US in not that long of a time. People always say, overestimate what you do in 1 year, but you drastically underestimate what that looks like in a decade.
Now, what's fascinating about the business, and we're here to talk about health and fitness, and your cap table specifically has tons of people who are obsessed with health and fitness. Talk a little bit about kind of the business aspect of this, and like why go after those types of people, not necessarily just beer people or just people who could give you distribution inside of retailers, but specifically people in sports and health and fitness and these other categories that obviously match exactly, I think, who you guys are trying to reach.
Yeah, the common theme is high performance people across all walks of life. And when I talk to those people, they get it. I'm coming from kind of like one of the top firms in the financial world, but it is a very similar demands on your life across all these different elite athletes, celebrities, things like that. It took me 120 investor meetings to get to our core group of angels to build our first brewery in 2017. But in that group of people who invested and believed in Athletic, networking to those people, I found such an excited core group of people who are all high performing for the most part. And yeah, perfect example of this. I was up at Lake Placid. We're the title sponsor of the Ironman this past weekend. And one of our elite athletes, Ben Hoffman, got second in the Ironman there and is like just a pinnacle Ironman racer, endurance athlete. He found Athletic on his own through his high performance lifestyle and reached out to us. And very similarly, we've networked to people across all walks of life who get it immediately when they try it. JJ Watt, Chef David Chang, Carly Kloss, the supermodel, and then so many other anonymous people who are at like the top of the financial game, the top of their sport. Lance Armstrong, like the first time I talked to him, he just got it right from the start. So it's really cool to see that, like what we set out to do resonate right from the start.
Now, we've seen a bunch of people, and I'll just call it like the broader beverage, spirits, et cetera world really start to take off. You've got the Conor McGregors, you've got The Rock, you've got George Clooney. Like all of those folks seem to be more kind of liquor driven. I haven't actually seen that many athletes or celebrities go after the beer market. Is that because it's not as attractive? They don't know how to do it. Is there some other reason? And like, is that an opportunity maybe for Athletic to start to work with some of these individuals to figure out a way to bring this to their mass audiences that some of these athletes and celebrities have?
For sure. Yeah. We're emerging in one of the most stigmatized category that food has ever seen. Like there's not a positive word spoken about non-alcoholic beer going back 10 years ago. But when you have people like JJ Watt, David Chang, like people like that talking about it in a positive way, it's really hard to make fun of it after that. We're the official beer of Walker Hayes' Duck Buck Tour this summer. So like starting to like definitely have a lot of musicians who are excited about what we're doing as well. And I think those celebrities do help break down the awareness. But more than anything these days, it has to be authentic. Consumers can see through it a mile away. And for every George Clooney's Casamigos, there's a Stallone's bourbon as well that didn't succeed,
And when you start to look at kind of the health benefits of this, I know that there's a lot of kind of regulation as to what you all are allowed to say, what you're not allowed to say, but how do you think about it for yourself, right? Like what are the things that you notice when you drink the non-alcoholic beer versus drinking an alcoholic drink?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm not a doctor. We technically can't make health claims at Athletic, but speaking back to my own life journey, I was training for ultra endurance events in 2013 when I stopped drinking almost a decade ago. And it's amazing how night and day the sleep is. All of us are measuring and getting better at it than we ever have before, whether it's your 8 sleep mattress, something on your wrist. But 30 years ago, all of us got our health information from the FDA food pyramid, beer advertising, and it was really hard to go against those things. But now when you wake up on your 8 sleep mattress after a couple drinks and it tells you got a terrible night's sleep, you have real data to share with your friends or your wife or your family in real time. And you're like, you know what? I'm not drinking tomorrow. And then when you don't drink, it tends to show up in data. You get really good information feedbacks. Plus, there's objective facts. If you look at the calorie content of different beverages, athletic beers are between 25 and 70 calories for the most part. Those are pretty free calories and they're super wholesome and clean label. Generally hydrating as well. So, all these elite athletes on our cap table and who are in our network, we have 1,500 amateur ambassadors who are all high performing athletes too. Every elite athlete knows it's not necessarily your workout where you make all your gains. It's in the recovery, it's in your nutrition, and it's showing up every day. And athletic can be a really key part of that kind of high performance lifestyle.
Now, are we going to see somebody, rather than shooting the champagne or doing kind of the traditional celebration, somebody's going to win the Super Bowl or maybe the Tour de France, something like that, and bring athletic out and start pouring it all over themselves?
So, we see that almost every weekend at Ironman podiums already. Ironman is the peak of the elite endurance sports. I think you are going to see it more and more in baseball locker rooms. And we have people in all these sports who drink athletic beers. Most of them are under the radar and not officially sponsored yet. But it's going to be more and more in the public lexicon. And we have more and more help these days too, building the category. When athletics started, there were maybe 5 to 10 non-alcoholic beers on the market. Now there are over 200 on the market in the US in terms of non-alcoholic beer brands. Athletic is driving over 35% of category growth by ourselves, which I think speaks to our quality, our authentic proposition, and just being leaders of the category. But this is much more than just a micro trend. This is going to be a tidal wave, and I think we're going to see it in all elements of society within 5 years.
Makes complete sense. And then what about the protocol for drinking, right? We've talked today with people who are protocol for cold plunge and sleeping and all these things, but is there a good time to drink it versus not? Is there certain foods? How do you think about the protocol behind drinking athletic brewing?
That's the thing. We are, for the first time in decades, reopening occasions to the adult beverage world. The adult beverage world had a narrowing occasions for decades on decades. And so it can, I drink athletic brewing as a customer. I'm our first customer every year. If I look at our e-commerce sales, I'm in the top 50. So I am speaking as a customer here. I pay 100%, no discounts. But my afternoon IPA is literally one of my favorite things. There's nothing better than a beach beer, a weeknight food pairing. After I put my son to bed and do his bath, having that unwind beer at night, it's really very flexible. And that's a great thing where if you're drinking alcohol, you really have to plot out where is that going to fit safely in your life.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating to me that you can now drink something that tastes good and you get all the psychological components, whether it's in the social situation or, as you mentioned, wind down, but you don't get the negative kind of physical, implications to that. I am shocked that no one's done this before, but obviously you guys have done a great job. When you think about the legacy of athletic brewing, how much of this is around a business versus impact for those high performers? Or can you do both of them? Can you build a great business and also have this amazing kind of impact on people's individual lives?
You hit it exactly on the head. What got me out the door for my old job? I would have never left my old job. I found it intellectually challenging. It was extremely financially rewarding. It was safe in a way. And I took this huge risk, and it wasn't for the economic opportunity as much as it was for the impact opportunity. Alcohol is among the top 3 causes of death in the country most years. It's hundreds of thousands of people, and it contributes to the top 2 in heart disease and cancer. There are 15 million, I think it's 14.8 million documented alcoholics in the US, which probably means there's a large multiple more than that of undocumented. And the ripple effects in society of that are enormous. I thought the realization I had in talking to my wife before I went and resigned from my job was, if we can make moderation off-ramps societally acceptable, cool, unstigmatized, and really aspirational, we could potentially have a positive impact on tens of millions of people, if not more, as you extend it to globally. And that was something I was not going to have an opportunity to do ever again in my life. And now when I go out into the world or read our customer emails and stuff, I hear those stories back, and that's like, it makes it all worthwhile. You know, I was on the road and doing a sampling yesterday in a different market, and a woman came up to me who had been trying to stop drinking for 25 years, but could never stick with it. And she said she's been sober for 2 years after discovering Athletic. And and she told me how much it improved her family life, her health, everything. And it was just like, even that one instance made it all worthwhile to me. But like, that is happening to millions of people, and it will do more and more the next few years. So that's what gets me excited.
Makes sense to me. Bill, where can we send people to find you online or find out more about Athletic Brewing?
Yeah, we're just athleticbrewing.com, at Athletic Brewing on all our socials, plus countries. If anyone's overseas, Athletic Brewing EU, for example, Athletic Brewing UK, we're in all Tesco. So yeah, thank you so much.
I'm a huge fan. I've been drinking the product for a long time, and there's just something special about tasting beer without getting all the negative side effects. So please keep going. I think there's a lot of people around the world who are very appreciative customers as well. Definitely do it again in the future.
Thank you. Likewise. You know, we've been on, like, I was a huge fan of your journey and what you're building. I know we connected authentically, and it's been so much fun to just digest all your content and build in parallel with you.
Wow. Who knew that the non-alcoholic beer space was so large? All right, that's it for today. We've got sleep, we've got cold plunge, we've got ketone IQ, and we've got non-alcoholic beer. These 4 products and services are things that I use in my day-to-day life, and they've helped me become a better performer. I hope that you learned something today, and I appreciate you tuning in to the Build or Die Health and Fitness Conference. Hopefully you take away from today a tidbit, a protocol, a new product, or some new idea that will help you perform better in your chosen profession. That's it for today. Make sure you subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or make sure that you subscribe on your favorite audio platform, and I'll see you at the next Build or Die conference.